Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge, how to sharpen your competitive advantage and make positive impact as a organization and community. I'm Emily by Georgia. We are leadership coaches and hosts of this show. Today, we are pleased to be joined also by Mitch De Silva, Mitchell De Silva, I should say. Mitch, as we fondly call him, is the city Trinidad and Tobago. Our topic this morning is building culture. Before we dive in and hear from Mitch, I'll invite Georgia to talk about culture in our awareness piece. So, Georgia.
Hi, thank you, Emily. Good morning, Mitch. We're so happy to have you. You're our second guest, and it's really nice having you on this morning. We're talking about culture, and Trinidad is rich in culture. I think this is a perfect time for us to be having this because it's carnival season. So it's all rich in culture. But we're going to be talking about culture in our organization. And organizational culture, when we talk about that, we're talking about how we do things. And so, Mitch, when you think of culture, there are many persons who say that their culture is one that they enjoy. You go to work and you spend so many hours, and the culture really is what pulls you into the organization. And there's some people who say, listen, I want to leave my organization because of the culture. So we're asking those who have joined us this morning to think about the corporate culture, the culture in your organization. What one or two words would you use to describe that culture? And then after you've thought about it, if it's positive, you want to embrace it. And if it's negative, you want to say, what are two other words you'd want to use to describe your culture? And if there's anything that you can do to build that culture that you want. So, Mitch, we're going to bring you on stage now and ask you to share your culture journey with us.
So, good morning, Emily. Good morning, Georgia. Thanks very much for that introduction, and good morning to the audience. So, I'd start off by saying culture really is the foundation of any business. And when I say business, I also include I should broaden that to any organization. Without the right culture, without the right understanding of the culture, your ability to succeed is limited. Culture sort of acts as that guidepost. It tells you what your values are as an organization, tells you what your values are as a country. But culture is often intangible. It's hard to describe. It's often something you experience or something you feel, and it's something, as in most things, you have to invest time in to understand and to be a part of and to figure out if you fit within the specific culture, because that's an important aspect of it, right, Georgia? Some people may not fit. Some people just find the culture is exactly what they want and exactly what they're looking for, and they thrive in that environment. Those who don't find a fit tend to find a challenge in an environment where culture seems awkward or absent from their perspective. My journey as one being a cultural atheist to one who now has become a proponent and advocate for culture, um, absorbing it, promoting it, getting other people to be ambassadors for it. And I'll start off with why I was a cultural atheist. I'd say that started off in my university career, where I would have done a course in organizational behavior. Emily and I actually went to university together, so we were probably in the same lecture at the time. And we came to the topic of culture, and I didn't really understand what it was about because it didn't resonate with the other things that I really associated business with, which was revenue, profit, loss, human resources, other things that felt more tangible. Culture felt like something I couldn't define. And then I gradually transitioned into the working world. I've spent just over 25 years working for different companies in financial services in Trinidad and Tobago. And the first place I started, again, Emily happened to be here, so she was either I was following her or she was following me. I'm not sure. Um, I couldn't. Culture wasn't top of mind. I understood the organization, I understood its goals, but I didn't attribute anything or much of it to the culture. I just attributed it to the fact that these were driven individuals. They wanted to succeed. Everybody felt the urgency to deliver. Everybody felt an urgency to be the best and to make the organization we were part of the best. I'd say my cultural revelation came when I actually left that organization after just under 10 years, sorry, and I went to another financial services company, again in Trinidad and Tobago. And I emphasize that it was in Trinidad and Tobago because, I mean, as you shared, Georgia, we are in the midst of Carnival, and that's our culture. That's what, if you were to ask somebody from Trinidad and Tobago to describe their culture, they would reference, I'm pretty sure, our Carnival and the festivities and all that happens and goes around in that particular time of year. So I got to this other organization, and it really hit me how different the culture was from where I had come. And I actually went there with another individual from my past employer, and we both had the same experience. Now, that culture wasn't bad, nor was the culture we came from good. It was just decidedly and remarkably different. What I felt in that culture was a real effort to transmit and translate it to everyone. And then, not to be repetitive, but to go back to what you said, if you didn't fit in that culture, you probably had to leave because it was such a powerful force. And the organization was very, very deliberate in trying to imbue its employees with the culture, with its understanding. And as part of that culture, they were very, very focused on teamwork, having a person achieve success, but through a team. Where I'd come from before, it was more individual success. And both of those approaches result in organizational success. But the how of getting to that success was very, very different. And it took me a while to adjust to the new culture, but I did. I embraced it. I resisted it. But in the end, it's the place where I've learned the most about culture in an organization. And I've taken many of the learnings from that place into other organizations where I worked. So then I had another baptism of culture or immersion when I moved from that institution and I went to another financial services company in Trinidad and Tobago. There was also a difference among the three. So first was different from the second, third was different from the second, etc. And second different from the third. In that one, there was a unique dynamic. This entity that I had joined was acquired maybe 7 years prior to my joining by another international company. And what I found was what I had read a lot about over time at university and elsewhere about how cultures clash when a business is acquired by another, and the acquiring business is trying to make the acquired align to its values, to its way of doing things, to its culture. And if it's one thing I know, culture in Trinidad and Tobago is a very, very strong and powerful thing, especially if you're encountering a culture that is formed in an organization and people have their ways of executing and ways of interacting with each other. And I saw that struggle within the organization. I saw the one trying to pull the other, and to a degree the other trying to pull away or pull the larger organization to it. And that was ongoing. So I probably stayed there just under 4 years, and then I came back to my original employer. And what I had found 10 years on is, interestingly enough, the culture had changed. It was different, and again, I had to go through a very long process of adapting to what it was, to understanding it, to learning it, and to figuring it out. It was a challenge, and it has been a challenge. But I came back as the head of the organization, so of the entity that I'm now at. So I also took it upon myself, not only to understand it, but to sort of see how I could mold it and maybe put it in a particular direction where I felt the culture should go, again, based on all the experience I'd had over the 25 odd years, well, at the time, 20 something odd years of transitioning through different organizations and seeing the impact of culture. And ironically, over the last 2 to 3 years, the very organization I'm a part of is going through a culture change. The very top executives of the business have decided to move the culture in a particular direction because maybe they felt that there were deficiencies or things or aspects of the culture that they thought were retarding our success. And our CEO, she's still our CEO today, she said at one point when she introduced the culture change, she said, she believes that in some instances, there's a greater loyalty to the desk or unit and as opposed to the firm. And what we need to be successful is to have loyalty to the firm. So we set about 3 very basic objectives that we have the institution rally around, and we've really embedded those as our, not to be cliche, as our North Star to work towards, so that we create an environment where there's a decided loyalty to the firm as opposed to the individual. Let's succeed together, let's not succeed as individuals. So it sort of resonates with what I experienced in the second institution I worked for. And we are going through a significant financial re-engineering. The cultural shift started before that. So I believe it was done to prepare us for what we're going through. So that we really figure out how we get through what is going to be a difficult passage together as opposed to individuals. So maybe I'll pause there and see if there are any questions or things you'd like me to speak on more.
That is powerful stuff, Mitch. There were 2 words in particular that I like that you used. You said at one stage you embraced it, and then another stage you challenged it. Yes, and that happens to many people. There are times when you embrace what you're seeing there. It fits exactly what you want and desire. And there are times that you challenge it. So we want to say to people that it's not automatic that you're going to fit in that culture. Sometimes you may embrace it and sometimes you may challenge it. Emily, you want to talk about your own situation and how you view this?
Well, in terms of what Mitch shared, I think it's instructive, Mitch, when you started your journey where we were the same place at the same time, we were young and impressionable. So I guess we just fell into the culture and we didn't even realize we were in a culture. We just did what we tried to fit in, right? And just do the job, work, figure things out. And as you moved on, you also matured in your career and the way you saw things. And I think having had that experience, the first one, for so long, for 10 years, both of us probably would have thought, I'm sure you would have thought the same way, that this is how work is done. So it would have been a culture shock, like a literal culture shock when you got to the second place and you're like, whoa, work is not done like this. So this would so this is what we mean by culture. And I think if you're listening even to us now on the recording, it'll be instructive to try for you as a listener to think about the places that you're in and how you are fitting into that or not, as Mitch said, because sometimes it fits. Culture is not just the values, it is driven by the values, but it really is, as Georgia said in the beginning, the how, the behaviors, right, of how things are done. So no matter what the value says stuck up on the notice board or on the the mission and the vision and all those things with the values, sometimes those things are not the culture of the organization, right? So that's also something to note.
That's true.
So Mitch,
Emily.
I love that story. I love you. Go ahead, Georgia.
Yeah, no, I was just agreeing. Yes, it's not just the words on the wall. It's the walking that talk.
Correct. It's the walking of the talk. So Mitch, I was saying that I love this story, and it's interesting how you've witnessed all the different cultures along the way. When we spoke of this story too, the culture where in the organization where there was a shift where there were where it was clashing. I remember you even sharing that it was hard for you to figure out how to succeed in that environment because you weren't quite sure what to do. It was just a confusing place for you at the time. So that's also an interesting something to note for people who are experiencing all sorts of things based on the culture that they are in, the organizational culture that they're in. Yeah. So Mitch, I was also saying that it's very interesting now that you all are in your environment making a new shift. And I'm sure culture is not a thing that we speak. It's a thing that we do constantly. So I'm curious as to how are you doing that? How are you helping to make that shift or helping others to come along on the journey? Is that something as the head of the organization is doing or feels that can work that has been helping you along in this process?
No, thanks for that, Emily. So look, if this organization has decided to make a change, right, and one of the things we've recognized is that over time habits form. So what we are trying to do is form habits that will be reflective of the culture we're trying to build. And that, as you said, Emily, that's really walking the talk and modeling the behaviors we want and drilling it down to every aspect of the organization. So what we've done in our little space and corner of that larger entity is, we are dealing with it on a visual um, level. So we have posters all over the building saying what we're striving to do. To Georgia's point, yeah, they're just sometimes for people they're just words on the wall or words that they forget and they no longer read. But we put in it, we've saturated the environment with it, so you can't help but see it when you come in. And then we talk about it often. And away from that, the wider organization is doing many things that are focused on building the habits and shifting us to the place we want to go. So it's a constant barrage, if I could use that word, that we're really making a decided and focused effort to move where we want to go. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take time. It's going to be frustrating. People will not understand it, but we have to stick to it, which sort of I've just described is what you go through when you try to form a new habit or break an old one, right? It's exceedingly difficult to break a habit, and it is exceedingly difficult to form a new one.
Yes, yes. And it really does take buy-in and acceptance from everyone to sort of see. I always say when it comes to behavior change, people have to see what's in it for me. So if I see, that cliche also, right? What's in it for me? But if they don't see that this change is going to help progress in the ways that I want to progress, sometimes it's harder for that acceptance piece. And if you don't have the acceptance piece, then the change becomes really challenging indeed. Yeah, even more so. So yes, absolutely. So we want to we hope, in terms of people listening today to understand and think about their cultures and how it impacts the organizational performance and your teams. How, if your culture isn't working for you, what are some of the things that you might want to start thinking about if you're in a position to make that change? And even if you're not in a position to make that change, you can still probably influence some change within your team, if not the entire organization. So just things to think about, and also a plug for myself and Georgia to let you know that when it comes to habit change, behavioral change, attitude change, culture change, these are things that leadership coaches can do very well with in terms of helping you to get those things to stick, right? To get those changes to happen. So when I tell people I'm a leadership coach, they look at me like, what exactly is that? So this is a great example, right, Georgia, where we come in. So
Yes, this is
again,
exactly
Mitch,
where we come
thank you
in.
for absolutely. So again, Mitch, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being our guest. Thank you for sharing your story of being a culture, not agnostic, a culture atheist to a proponent of culture. I love how you described it. Thank you for sharing, and how you recognized the need and the importance of culture when it comes to organizational success. Your success is really in a place where you don't fit, as you've said several times, Mitch. Then it's something for you to think about, to look at seriously for yourself. So, with that, Georgia, you want to say anything?
Yes, a quick one, Emily. Because of our cultural sensitivity, we are not going to have any program next week, Monday. That's Carnival Monday. So we will be seeing you the
That is
following Monday.
true.
Yes. So we want to make sure we give you time to go and
Yes,
have fun on
yes.
Carnival Monday. We will see you again the following Monday. Mitch, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
All the
Take
best
care,
to you and the
everyone, and be
audience.
safe for Carnival and
Bye
have a
for
good
now.
time.
Take care.
Bye bye.